Hello and welcome back, all my Dragon Ball theorists. We have talked about Zalama a few times in the past and speculated on where and just what this Dragon God is to the multiverse. Is he really only the creator of these omnipotent spheres that can grant any wish, or is there something much more to this character yet to be revealed to fill in gaps of the god hierarchy? In this video today, we will explore a few ideas and concepts of the most mysterious god in all of Dragon Ball, to piece together some evidence and give you a story on Zalama the Dragon God, or should I say, the Omnipotent Creator. I did mention gaps in the god hierarchy, and what I mean by that is, who created the multiverse? Who granted the angels and Zeno life in these very early times of creation? You know the classic story of what came first, the chicken or the egg. However, a misconception is that Zeno, who is the omni-king, created the multiverse just because he oversees it, and that isn't likely. We have never seen this childlike god create anything. In fact, we have seen Zeno rely on the Grand Priest to observe and create. The angels are the ones that possess creation power just like the Kais, and can manifest matter right before our eyes. So what is the source of all this creation power, and was it a means to keep everything balanced in the multiverse? Zalama did create a way to reverse the power of Zeno, which many thought that would be impossible. Zeno is the god of gods, as his title implies, but we do find out his power isn't absolute. So what was Zalama's plan, and why did he actually do this? Why didn't Zeno or anyone stop him? Kinda odd that they would just allow Zalama to create Dragon Balls with the power to defy the king of everything. Or perhaps they just didn't have any say in the matter, as Zalama was the source of creation. Literally everyone and everything. I did a video discussing a time before Zeno and what transpired before the Omni-King. In that video, I discussed Zeno's origins, or his birthday to be specific, which we know was 3,135,500,603 days ago, from when the Tournament of Power started. It's called the King's Calendar for a reason, and while we don't know how long a day is on this calendar, we just know that all these days ago Zeno was born, and the King's Calendar was created, at least following the traditional logic of how calendars work, where they are based on a specific event. Sure, some people have said, well, perhaps Zeno created the calendar after he created everything, and I will just remind everyone of the Omni-King's counting prowess. They struggle with numbers, and perhaps this is why they really were trying to get rid of a few universes to get the numbers down to something they can count to. Thankfully, the Grand Priest is there to set things straight with math and how many fighters were left. A fun fact when talking about the Dragon Ball timeline is that 100 million years before age, the first Kais are thought to exist, but this is actually after the year 42 of the King's Calendar when Zalama finished the Super Dragon Balls. So what was going on before the King's Calendar was created in these dark times? Well, I do imagine that things were much darker and chaotic in the multiverse, because before Zeno, anyone is free to claim the throne to sit on. As far as we know, it was vacant for the taking, which means there were likely ancient battles of good versus evil before the current multiverse we now know in Dragon Ball eventually came to be. Obviously the angels won, and likely why all angels possess tremendous battle powers. They were the original heroes of the multiverse fighting on the behalf of good, and forced the early evil of the multiverse into the demon realm at the bottom of each universe. At least this is how I envision these early times of chaos before a god hierarchy system was set up. So when everything began, it is possible that all life, good and evil, came from Zalama, the angels and demons, the 18 universes, everything. That Zalama is this powerful, omnipotent creator that the entirety of life was born from, and because of this, he doesn't interfere very often with the occurrences that happen in it. That he just is that one above all type of god that lies behind the scenes and lets the multiverse decide their own fate. I think that for many of us, this tends to make more sense, and in Dragon Ball they do like introducing even more powerful characters. That is how we ended up with Battle of the Gods and the introduction of Merus. We thought the Supreme Kai was at the top of this god hierarchy, but we found out there are gods of destruction, angels that see over them, an even grander angel after that, and then the Omni-King. So I would say it's expected in time we find out who is really running the show at the tippy top of the gods as the story continues. We still don't know much about this great beyond the angels come from, why they are absolved from being erased by Zeno. Are they part of an infinite source and that is why they return to it until needed again if something happens to their god of destruction? How many other angels or divine beings come from this great beyond? As of now, it isn't even shown on the universe map yet, and if we have the demon realm at the very bottom or edge of the universe, perhaps this great beyond is the counterbalance and on the very top at the opposite end. A completely different plane of existence that the angels come from and return to. Maybe even where we can currently find Zalama. That this is the true heavens of the universe residing at the top of everything, and from there the true one above all exists. Many of us theorized who could be this one above all, since as the show has continued, it became apparent that it wasn't Zeno. Ever since we arrived at 2 Zenos, they began to show us that this Omni-king can't govern all of time and space, and that they have weaknesses. We then knew that there had to be something more. I do enjoy the idea that it could be the Grand Priest, and while he is extremely powerful and can accomplish insane feats like teleporting everyone to the Void Realm for the tournament and building a stage out of nothing, this isn't anywhere close to the powers that Zalama demonstrated. The Super Dragon Balls can grant any wish. There is no debate anymore about that since they reversed entire universes from being erased. Anything you can imagine, it is within their power to grant, as long as you speak the language of the gods to ask for that wish that is. So very early on, one of the first things on record of being created in the year 41 of the King's calendar, Zalama designed these omnipotent spheres. One idea is that Zalama doesn't exist anymore, and perhaps used all his power to create omnipotent wishing orbs, but this thought is debunked when listening to Zuno, who knows everything and was telling Bulma of every detail of their existence. Zalama created them in the year 41, but later went on to create the star design on them that can be viewed from any angle in the year 42. Guess as a creator he wanted them to look amazing, and this was the last thing he designed. At least that we know of. However, what are some of the things he created before the Super Dragon Balls? Possibly 41 years before, Zalama could have actually created Zeno. This is totally within his power to create a childlike god to oversee the multiverse. Then on that day, the King's calendar was made by him to signify the start of his creation and the early god hierarchy. Perhaps Zalama was concerned about his creation of Zeno, so 41 years later, he created omnipotent wishing orbs that could actually counter him. After he appointed the Grand Priest to oversee Zeno and guide him, as a failsafe, he had Super Dragon Balls to grant any wish if you gather them up from Universe 6 and 7. This makes sense as everything has balance, and it would be the most logical motive for Zalama to create such a thing, especially so close to when Zeno would have came to existence. Why did Zalama choose Universe 6 and 7 to have the Super Dragon Ball scattered? Well, there is a race that are now known to also be capable of creating wishing orbs, the Namekians, and it is possible that this race of beings was originally created long ago in Zalama's image. That is also why they possess a similar creation power. Just a working theory since the Namekians are only in Universe 6 and 7 at this time, and we have the Super Dragon Balls in them. This would also give us an idea of what Zalama actually looks like if he did create all Namekians in his image. Although if he can create omnipotent wish orbs, he can probably take any form he wants. Obviously, this mysterious god is the most intriguing to talk about in Dragon Ball because he created something that can do anything. A power that we envision Zeno to be capable of, but he isn't. So as the story continues in the manga, and if Merus is an angel, which all evidence is pointing towards that, maybe now we can get more information on this great beyond they come from, how the god hierarchy was actually all set up, and more clues to why Zalama had omnipotent power and then decided to leave everything up to these gods to oversee the multiverse. Maybe he felt his work was done and now he sits back in the great beyond, overlooking all the parallel timelines and existence. Perhaps Zalama is the true one above all, and things would have to get extremely bad for him to take action or show himself. You know, something along the lines of every multiverse being destroyed, so we'd have to create it all over again as a hard reset. There has to be a being that oversees everything, a god who is above time and can accomplish feats like this. The only character in Dragon Ball that currently can fit this description is Zalama, the Omnipotent Creator. Well, this is my story talking of Zalama and how he could be the source of everything in Dragon Ball. I hope everyone has an amazing weekend. If you like listening to stories like this one, please check out my Deep Information and Stories playlist. If you enjoyed this video, please share it and smash that like button. It is tremendously helpful. Now tell me, do you think Zalama could be the one above all, and is this Omnipotent Creator? I always love to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Also, please subscribe and turn on that notification bell to keep those theories coming.